Alrighty, so good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so I want to show you how to start glazing. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is make sure your project is Bisqueware. So that means you've made it, you've taken it out to the kiln yard, it's come back, it's changed color, you can tap it, sounds like a bell. Because you cannot glaze greenware, okay? So it has to be Bisqueware for you to be able to glaze it. The other thing is you're gonna have to have already chosen your color. So like I said, make sure that you use the test tiles to figure out what color you want, because like depending on how many coats, it may or may not show texture or underglaze or whatever. And once you've chosen on the back side, it tells you what it is. So C1 obsidian. So this on the top here, C1, but always check the bottle, C1 obsidian. Okay, so I know that's what I have. Now I already did part of this because you gotta wait in between coats to add more layers, and we're gonna be adding 3 coats. And I also did something fancy where like down here, I used an underglaze transfer where if you are in advanced, you could use an underglaze transfer. And I went ahead and did the dipping clear glaze on it, and I only dipped to right here just to cover my underglaze transfer. And I did that instead of doing the black because I know this obsidian is gonna cover up the underglaze transfer and I wanted to show. But I do wanna do some like crazy drippy stuff and some mixy stuff on the inside of this cup and a little bit on the outside. So I want a different color on the top half. So I already added some obsidian to here. I've already added 3 coats on the outside, but I'm gonna show you how to add the 3 coats on the inside, what actually makes a coat, all right? So once you've figured out your color and you have your color, do put some newspaper down because when you get all drippy and stuff, less cleanup, score for us. Right? And I like to have a banding wheel. And if I had thought about it, I would have taken a small chunk of newspaper, like just one little piece, and I would have stuck it under here so I wouldn't have had to clean the banding wheel either. But now I'm gonna have to clean the banding wheel. But that's fine. Totally fine. But newspaper, banding wheel, project that's Bisqueware, 1 glaze at a time, please. Okay. And a paintbrush. Now I've already cleaned this out. I've already rinsed it out. And it's still damp, not like drippy wet. It's not gonna drip, but it's damp. That helps it with the flowiness when we go to paint it. And also you wanna rinse it out because like, you know, as much as I love you all, you're all fabulous and wonderful people, but like really, do you trust everybody to rinse out their brushes really well? Advancedies, I'm looking at you, right? I love you all, but still. Okay, so make sure, super good. Next thing up, have your glaze log. So if you're in advanced, just add this to the back of your sketchbook. If you're in intro, you have a nifty, a fabulous glaze log that you wanna be filling out as we do this. So project, tumbler, that's what this is. I'm using the C1 obsidian. So what kind of glaze it is, the number, the name, C1 obsidian. How many coats are you gonna add? How did you glaze the process? Where did you glaze it? So there's a little picture and stuff too. And you really do wanna do that, okay? Cause like, this is either gonna come out amazing, in which case you're gonna wanna be able to do it again, or all your neighbors are gonna be like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? And you're gonna be like, oh, well, let me look at my glaze log. And they're gonna be like, yay. Or you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, that is the most hideous thing in the entire universe. I never wanna use those glazes again. In which case you could be like, yeah, let's not do that again. Either way, you wanna write it down, right? Okay, so shaking the glaze, you do wanna kind of shake the glaze. Make sure the lid's on. If you put the lid on and it's not all the way on, take it off and put it on again, okay? Because the last thing you wanna do is start shaking this and have this lid fly off and be like, psh, with glaze everywhere. So the other thing that I do is I hold my finger over the top, because like, who wants to do this and get like, ugh, I've done that. Or like you'll go to pull it out, and a lot of times students will hold it by the lid when they pull it out of the cabinet, and it'll drop onto the floor and literally it'll hit the ceiling. Please don't do that. That's a waste of money. So hold it with your finger, make sure the lid's on. And if you're the last one to use it, make sure the lid is on. Shake it. Okay. Now, like I said, I already did the outside. We want to make sure when we do this that we're doing really like solid coats, okay? Since this outside is dry, I can go along the inside. So when I do this, I want it to be thick. I want it to have no brushiness because like, I don't want it to be brushy. So if I start to do this and it starts looking, do you see like where it's looking brushy? You don't want that, okay? Because that doesn't count as a coat. And if, especially for like some of the colors like Indigo Float or Smoky Merlot, if you don't put enough coats on, it's not gonna turn that color. So it's gonna look, you know, not as good. And you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this thing? So anytime it starts to look brushy, you want to go get more glaze because you want solid coats. See that solid stripe in the middle? That's what you want, okay? So you're taking a goodly amount, good chunk, and you're gonna brush it. I usually go from the bottom towards the outside edge. It's just easier for me. And then once I do one, I get a whole other scoop and I do it again. And if it looks brushy, I'm gonna go over it again. Oh, I totally just dripped right there. But that's what the newspaper is for. Isn't that fabulous? Now, I use the banding wheel a lot when I did the outside, but the inside, I just like to hold it because it's easier. So you can see I'm still, like I'm getting around, right? I'm going around. And you're just gonna go all the way around. And like I said, if it starts to get brushy, add more glaze. We do not want it to be brushy. And you do have to get in the corner, like in the bottom inside corner, you do have to get in there. You are gonna get the bottom. We're gonna get the bottom on this one last. When I'm doing a tumbler, I like to hold it. When I'm doing a bowl, I like to just set it on here and brush it in. So like, since I'm holding this tumbler, I'm not holding the glaze, but I do tend to hold the glaze when I'm doing a bowl. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the bottom on the inside, just kind of on the inside. And now I wanna make sure I get the lip, because like right now I didn't really do the lip. So I'm just gonna kind of blobby. Now I used to glaze with dipping glazes all the time, and we do have some dipping glazes in here, totally different video. Acts totally different than the brushy glazes. Like when I started doing brushy glazes, after having done dippy glazes for most of my career, I freaked out because this is so thick. But it has to be really thick for it to look nice with the brushy glazes. But if you make the dipping glazes like as thick as you would make a brushing glaze, it totally ruins the project. So it's really important that this one is really thick, but do make sure you watch the video for how to dip if you need to dip something. Okay, so now I've got one coat on the inside, right? So I've got the whole thing covered. Now I have to wait for it to dry. And you can tell when it's dry because it changes from that, like you can see where it's dried, right? The darker color that's still shiny is where it's wet, and that matte finish gray color is what it looks like where it's dry. Now, it's not gonna look like that once it's fired, right? It's gonna have a chemical change and it's gonna turn this color. So don't worry if the color doesn't look right. Like right here, this is gonna be clear, so you're gonna be able to see my underglaze transfer, but right now you can't. That's okay. Okay, so it needs to dry. And the best way to keep track of your layers, or one good way of keeping track of your layers, is I like to go in one direction first, let it dry, and then I go in the opposite direction next, and then let it dry, and then on my third one, I go the other direction. So that way I can tell, like on this outside here, I can kind of see the lumps that kind of go in like the up and down direction. And if I can see that, I know that I already did the up and down coat, which is always my second coat. So that helps me keep track of that. Now the inside, it's a little bit more of a struggle to do that. On the inside, I do 2 long and then 1. So I'll go long, around, long, And that's how I do the inside one. So now for like drippy glazes and stuff, there is another video for drippy glazes. So like once this is dry, I'll go ahead and do another video for continuing to layer and add drippy glazes on stuff. But yeah, for right now, how many coats do I still need on the inside? I need 2 more, right? So while I'm waiting, I could be working on recording this. I could be drawing my picture. I could be working on another project or another glazing thing. I tend to have a couple things glazing at the same time. Like I have a bowl and I have a tumbler that are both being glazed at the same time. And you can also start cleaning things. Cleaning is always good. So you can start cleaning your banding wheel now. So that way you're all ready to go at the end. All right, so happy glazing, everybody. It's an experiment. It'll be amazing and fun and exciting. All right, thanks, everybody.